educating these men to simply push away from the table, take your
Right.
money off the table, and say, I'm not giving you my attention, money,
Right.
or time. Have a nice life. That is not violence in
No,
any way, shape, or form.
it's not. They hate it because they can't control it.
Yeah, and
They
listen,
hate it because they want to continue to treat men the way they're treating them. They want to continue to have their cake and eat it too and discard you whenever it pleases them. And you guys are like, doesn't sound like a good deal to us.
correct.
Bye. I don't think the women really want us to have a comparison of who cares for their families the most.
Yeah.
But men care so deeply for their families, and when the whole family is ripped apart, their children are ripped away, alienated from them, they don't get time with them. It is, like you said, it's the wound that never heals. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
women just take it so flippantly. I have realized that women just don't seem to think that men can love. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Men love to the point of laying down their lives.
I'm too politically incorrect, and they would
Right.
rather have our servicemen kill themselves than listen to my content. Because guess what?
Right.
I'm screwing with death. And when the stakes are that high, someone's tone should not matter how that battle or war is conducted, because the stakes are that high.
Thank you for coming on the show. It is an honor to have you here. As many of my subscribers know, they know the red pill, the issues with dating and the issues with the women that way. And they know about MGTOW. Some of them went MGTOW before they ever heard the syllables MGTOW. But you might be new to some of them. So just sort of like a 30,000 foot overview. How did you get started in this? What was the catalyst?
The wake up call?
The wake up call.
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard the dreaded three magic words. I'm not happy for my wife. And then I was dragged into court because I served my country. I was labeled a murderer and an assassin. Um, all of the usual abuse, bad guy, craziness happened in court.
Yeah.
And I lost my kids. I got stuck on child support, and to the point I lived in my car for about 6 months for part of 2006, 2007 because of it. And being a military guy, I just don't take anything at face value. I dove into the numbers and I did the research because I have
Right.
friends of mine that are lawyers and what have you, and I have
Right.
access to all of those legal databases.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. You do have access.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's shocking. This happens
Yeah.
on the regular, and it
Yeah.
is so egregious. There's a reason why 65 to 70% of the people on the street are men. A lot of those guys have contact with the family court or divorce court. They're
Right.
never going to get off the street because the minute they try to work or clean themselves up to join society again, the divorce court takes all of their money away.
Right.
I've talked to
You've
guys.
done it.
Yeah, I've talked to guys who literally turn themselves in the fall, do their 90 days or 120 days in jail, get out in the spring, and it's just rinse and repeat.
They go to jail for not paying the child support.
Correct.
And
And
then how are they supposed to work if they're thrown in jail? So then
that's
where do they
the
get the money to pay the child support? It's
they
like,
don't. They don't. And most states have an interest rate on arrearages. So,
oh,
and
geez.
it climbs pretty quickly. It could get to, 20, 40, 50 grand plus easy. And if
Right.
you're getting hit with a 15% penalty per year, you're never going to pay that off. And in every state in the union, once you go over a certain amount of back child support, which is between $5,000 and $10,000, they can
Right.
actually charge you with a felony and throw you in, pound you in the booty prison.
Great. And that makes it even harder to get a job
Yes.
and get housing. And, and so you're trying to pay child support for a kid you never get to see
Hmm.
because she's going to withhold the child and,
No
punish you
penalties.
that way.
There's no penalties for women that do that on the regular. In fact,
Feel bad all this.
I did a whole
Right.
comedy lecture called Deadbeat Dad Dilemma. I believe I did it my second year in like 2013, 14, where I
Yeah.
mathematically break it down because it's virtually impossible for a divorced man, to stay in his child's life on the regular because there's
Right.
only 24 hours in a day.
Right.
Yep.
And
And,
don't you have a background in finance? So isn't there like numbers? Maybe I might be getting my
oh no, yeah, I
facts
worked
wrong,
in
but
finance.
so you're a numbers guy, right?
Yes.
And you're not just some military guy. You're like Army Ranger, Green Beret, like
Well,
33 years.
I did 33 years in the service,
Yeah.
retired a first sergeant, was an infantry soldier, an airborne paratrooper, an airborne ranger, forged in the fires of the actual Ranger Regiment, and a Green Beret. My service is not counted in tours or operations, but in wars. And I saw 3, and I was almost killed in 2.
Jeez. Right. But you're just a deadbeat and you're just an assassin and all the rest of it. You
Correct. In fact,
serve your country for your government to, you know,
yeah, and my ex-wife like turned my family against me, turned my friends against me, assassinated my character,
right.
murdered my dog, took away my kids, made me homeless, and this happens to men on the regular. So
Yes. Yes, it does. I'm sure that many of them listening can, you know, can relate. Unfortunately, whenever, I get an email and the man is telling me his story and it's very similar, you know, to this about being, drug in court and children taken away and being accused of something, he didn't do, abuse this, abuse that, parental alienation. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
mhm.
But unfortunately, this is so common.
Yeah, and
It's
it's so
so
common.
common.
I actually made a comedy webinar called Administrative Violence, Divorce and Custody Edition, so I can help train these men who are getting
Oh,
basically ambushed by the system, how to use the system itself, in their defense.
yeah, that's
Because,
fantastic.
well, the family court is a little cog of bureaucracy. And if you try to
Mm,
fight strictly in there, it's a frontal assault. They're very expensive and costly in men, material, money, you name it. But if you
yeah,
use some of the other surrounding bureaucracies to attack your opponents within said bureaucracy, well, then it gives you a fighting chance. Now, is it ethical? No. But most people are not lawyers, so they don't have to worry about ethics. It's not illegal, but because
right,
when you're dealing with being
right,
turned into a slave for 13 to
right.
15 years of your life, simply on I'm not happy. Now, your soon to be ex wife, you need to label her and put her in the proper place in the back of your mind, and that is the place where you put enemies. And
Enemy.
should get
Yep.
all of the benefits that that title conveys.
I think that's so hard for some men
It
because they're
is.
thinking of this like blushing bride that was once upon a time, and here's this thing sitting across from them in family court, and they just can't understand what happened, and they don't appreciate the level of evil she will and can because of the justice system enabling her and the lawyers enabling her. They don't know how bad it can get and how bad it will get. They always think, oh, she'll never do that.
Yeah, no.
She'd never accuse me. She'd never turn the kids against me. And
Mhm.
then they're blindsided.
Now, women have, I call it the B word switch, which rhymes with witch, between their
Right.
shoulder blades, and it usually activates somewhere around 11 to 13 years of age. And, and women have this ability to flip that switch and
Yes.
literally cut off or turn off all emotions for said man on a
Yes.
dime.
Yes, you are right. You are
On a
right.
dime. And another thing, I challenge you to sit in on as many divorce proceedings as I have and listen for any woman to say she's strong and independent, because they play both sides of the equation in divorce court. They're a victim in the divorce court.
Yeah.
They're a victim because they need money. The minute they walk out the court, they sit there, look at you, go, I'm strong and independent. While they're getting WIC, welfare, Section 8 child support, and alimony, which I've
Right.
renamed to Alice isn't horny anymore money.
Funny.
It's
It's
true.
funny because it's true. That's why it's funny. And you're right about what women can do. They can switch off the feelings for the man, and they can switch on any fake feelings or mask or whatever is going to benefit them in front of a judge or with an attorney, although the attorney seemed quite happy to
And
go after the man.
here's another funny part here. And this is just two observations.
Okay.
While I was doing my research on all of this divorce insanity,
Yeah.
a lot of these women, will use the courts, which are totally on their side.
Yeah.
They get a taste of that power, and they literally drive the father off. And then right around 5 years later, they whine and complain that the father's not involved in their children's lives
Yes.
anymore. And
Exactly.
they are 100% to blame for this.
Yes.
And listen,
Yes. They run him off.
yeah, children need the mother and the father. It's a yin and yang. There needs to be a balance in there. And we're seeing the effects of generations of young men raised by single mothers, and I call them felony factories. When you
Right.
look at the statistics, 85% of the people in Pound You in the Ass prison were raised by a single mother.
Single moms.
Kidding?
Right.
No.
Right. And then they're the ones that get the custody because something in Victorian England at some point in time, they decided that mothers were better at raising children or whatever nonsense.
It's called the
Clearly,
tender.
that's not the case.
It's called the tender years doctrine.
That's right. The tender years doctrine.
And here's the
Well,
thing.
not working.
Right around 10 years old, children of both sexes need to be exposed to their fathers, because the
Absolutely.
mother nurtures. They're really good at that. It's the fathers who prepare the children for the real world, which
Absolutely.
doesn't care about your feelings and
Right.
will do everything in its power to grind you into the dust.
Right. And he needs to, hold his daughter accountable. And we
Right.
see a lot of times with what I see with divorced families is the fathers, they never see their kids. So the times they do see their kids, they want it to be, happy and joyful and all the rest of it. And
Right.
God forbid they set a boundary, then, ex-wifey poo is going to be like, oh, he's being abusive because he makes them go to bed at a certain time or
Yeah.
makes them do their homework before they can play or whatever. I've seen that. Thankfully, since 2020, there's a lot of court on television. So I've watched family court, through YouTube. And I've seen
Yes.
that they'll accuse the dad of being abusive because he has
Well,
rules in his house.
it's
And
called the silver bullet offense. They accuse abuse, and there's a lot of judges out there who want to cover their ass or
yeah,
play it safe and will totally mop up your constitutional rights and throw them right in your face.
yeah.
Especially this whole PPO thing, personal protective orders.
Oh, yeah.
Now, technically, by the Constitution, you have the right to face your accuser. But there are an overwhelming amount of these PPOs which are given in secret without the man even being present. And that needs to be constitutionally challenged.
Yeah.
And on a side note, all of these judges violating constitutional rights on the regular need to be
Mm-hmm.
disbarred, lose their immunity, and sued into the Stone Age. I want to see them holding up "We'll work for food" signs, because they've been
Yeah.
doing that to men by the millions for decades.
Right. When would you say that this really got started? The terrible, is it when no fault divorce?
It started
Um,
at the end of Vietnam, 68,
okay,
72, and then the no fault divorce thing was pretty much law of the land by 1975 to 1978,
right.
and it just went off the chain then.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why so many Gen Xers come from broken homes. And
I mean,
like you said, we
I
can
was
see
raised by
it
a single
at X.
mother.
Yeah.
Listen, I was raised by a single mother. I had no idea what women actually wanted. I was only told what, the fairy tale of what they want, which are
Oh,
two completely different things. And I was a
absolutely.
raging a-hole in my youth. And I needed to go in the army at 17, or I would have wound up in prison or a graveyard, or perhaps in a graveyard in a prison.
Right. So the army sort of gave you the fathering that you needed, the discipline and all of that, you would say?
I would say fathering. It's too late by the time you're 17, but
True.
I
Yeah.
got a taste of reality, a boot in the ass, and I was given strict consequences if I stepped out of line,
Right. Right. And you
and I
clearly
thrived. I
excelled.
thrived.
Yeah. 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 Imagine if you'd had a father, like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's horrible because it robs children. It robs children of the life that, I guess they should have had or whatever. I hate to use the word deserve because I don't think any of us ever deserves anything, but it's hard
It
to say that a
would
child doesn't deserve both parents,
it
because
would have
like you said, they
even
balance each other.
having a mother and a father raising
Yeah.
a child evens the playing field. So
Right.
many of these young men and women are
Right.
getting to the age of 18, and they are literally 2 laps behind in the race,
Right.
and many of them never catch up.
Yeah, you're right. They never do. Yeah. Wow. So what do you think about this epidemic of male self-deletion and the overlap of veterans? We know that it's higher with veterans, right?
Yes.
But also,
Well, hang on.
yeah,
The veterans, they're saying that number's 22 a day. There are new studies saying it's around 44 a day. That's just veterans. And I would say it's much higher for just men.
yeah,
All right. Now, if you want to go by the 44 a day, you
mhm,
literally multiply 44 by 365 and then multiply that by roughly 35 years. And you will come up with a number that will be basically greater than all of the killed in action between 1901 and 1999. So in 1/3 of this upcoming century, we will have driven into an early grave more veterans that were killed in direct action in formal conflicts and in informal conflicts in 100-year period. And that's just veterans. When
right.
you stack on men on top of that, that number becomes astronomical. I'm trying to find that exact number, but it is well hidden, and the government will not set aside funds to do proper studies on these numbers because it makes the establishment that is in power now, which is run by feminism and, dare I say, the Zionists, um, look bad.
Yep, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, they can't put it out there because people would start saying, "Hey, wait a second, what's going on?
Yes.
This is a catastrophe. This is an emergency."
And
They don't want to put it out there because they don't ever want to expose feminism for
yeah,
sure. They
yeah,
don't want
absolutely.
to, you can never point the finger at women. You're not allowed to criticize women. Nothing is ever women's fault ever. And it's
Correct.
nothing could be farther from the truth with all of this. And what I was going to say is, um, I've heard from at least one veteran that said what he went through in combat. I can't remember if he was in Afghanistan or Iraq. Apologize. Um, He said what he went through in combat was not near as bad as what he went through in family court.
Yeah. Yeah. I got wounded in Iraq, had to deal with a TBI, a minor stroke. It took me years to actually get to even keel. I got hit with divorce and, was living in the street with PTSD and all of the horrible side effects of deep neurological damage.
Right.
And I was completely and 100% expendable. And men have been expendable throughout all of history. That's nothing new. But
Right.
feminism, basically starting from the 60s, has destroyed the social contract between men and women. Men
Yes.
maintain, protect, and build civilizations. And we have 30 million men not choosing not to be in the workforce. And we have
Right.
5.1 men out of 1,000 still getting married. And I'm going to bring that marriage number to zero if I can. And I'm
Me
going to
too.
turn that non-working number for men as high as I possibly can, because they've never listened to us over the past half a century. I am
Mm-hmm.
going to the grassroots of the problem, and I am educating the youth, the young men, using logic, reason, and comedy, the dangers of playing around in this situation. And the
Yes.
only safe play is not to participate.
Right. That's right. And it's not a violent movement. It's not aggression. It's not female hatred. Might not care for their behavior right now. It's just walking away. It's
No,
just
no,
saying, look,
it's an about face.
yeah, it's an about face.
Yeah, in the
It's,
military, if you have a
yeah,
shitty commander at his change of command, the unit will do an about face while he's speaking. That's all red pill MGTOW is. You're not
yep,
doing any violence. You just
nope,
I'm teaching you the truth. I'm telling you the tricks that are going on and
right.
the nastiness of female nature,
Mm-hmm,
and educating these men to simply push away from the table, take your
right,
money off the table, and
yep,
say, I'm not giving you my attention, money,
right.
or time. Have a nice life. That is not violence in
No,
any way, shape, or form.
it's not. They hate it because they can't control it.
Yeah. And
They
listen,
hate it because they want to continue to treat men the way they're treating them. They want to
yes,
continue to have their cake and eat it too and discard you whenever it pleases them. And you guys are like, doesn't sound like a good deal to us.
correct. Back in the
And they're
day,
losing their mind. I'm
yeah,
enjoying them losing their minds.
back in the day, men accepted the social contract. They could be drafted, called into fire brigades, deputized, where they faced death, dismemberment, and severe injury. And they were cool with that, all right? Because there was the social contract between men and women. That
Right.
doesn't exist anymore.
No,
This
we're not
government,
bringing anything to the table.
no, no,
There's nothing in it for you guys.
there's nothing. But this government will pull men off the street in times of emergency, put you through rudimentary training, give you weaponry, send you
Right.
out to fight the enemy, and if the worst comes to happen and you die, at least back in the day, they didn't even have the decency to bring your remains home so your family had a tombstone to visit. We have hundreds of thousands of our citizens who were drafted laying in foreign cemeteries as a testament to how disposable you are as a man.
Right. They don't care. I actually learned that listening to one of your videos. I didn't know that before because they don't, it's very interesting what information we get and what information we don't get. And they want to hide how they treat men. They
Correct.
want to hide how women behave. And they try to flip the script. And I love that men are finally, I know that this has been going on for a long time. You've been talking about it for over a decade, right? Well
Since
over a decade, I think.
2009.
Yeah.
I made
So,
the first video, Purple Heart's Final Beat. I'll send you the link to
right.
it.
Oh, I've
And
seen, yes.
it's all
It's
about soldier suicide.
right same thing. Yes.
And I
Yes.
put the blame solely at the feet of divorce court and family court because that's where it needs to be.
That's the problem. They want to tell us in the media, if you just read like mainstream media or whatever, you would just think it's all PTSD. It's everything you see at war. It's all that. And it's not. I mean, I know that's bad too, but it's what you're coming home to. It's the families you don't have and that are being torn away from you. And I thought it was really interesting in at least one of your videos, you talked about how when your wife divorces you, because it's what 80% of the time the female files, and then
Yes.
they take your kids. So now you see them maybe, 4
96
days.
hours, 96 hours a month a father
Right.
does not make.
And no, and you talked about it like it's like grieving a death.
It is. Listen, like my kids have been alienated against me. I'm just not going to go into detail about that.
Sure. Sure.
But I did everything in my power to stay in their lives. When
Yeah.
I got stationed to New York State, I drove 571 miles one way twice a month for 5.5 years. I had to give plasma to pay for gas. I had to go without food to make it happen. I had to write off the mileage on my taxes because I filmed redonkulous videos when I came back into town.
Yeah.
And it meant absolutely nothing because 96 hours a month a father does not make. I'm
No.
sorry. And there are millions of guys out there who have been stripped of the father experience, stripped
Right.
of the grandfather experience. They've been issued by this country the wound that never heals, which is the loss of your family and children, and it's a living hell, and it's dished out 5 days a week, 50 out of 52 weeks a year.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. And the thing is that women just don't think men care about their families that much.
Oh, yeah.
It drives me crazy. I know that men do.
Oh, my God.
I, I, if I was going to compare, I don't think the women really want us to have a comparison of who cares for their families the most.
Yeah.
But men care so deeply for their families, and when the whole family is ripped apart, their children are ripped away, alienated from them, they don't get time with them. It is, like you said, it's the wound that never heals. And
Oh, yeah.
the women just take it so flippantly. I have realized that women just don't seem to think that men can love. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Men love to the point of laying down their lives. That's the end. I mean, it's a huge, huge. There's nowhere a man won't go to
Yep.
protect his family, to save his family, to all of that.
Yep.
And then it's
Man will
completely taken out of his hands.
A man will sacrifice his happiness and need be his life for his family.
Right.
A woman will sacrifice her family for her happiness, and they do it
Right.
on the regular. This is
They
not
sure
a new
do.
thing. And
No.
here's another stat I'm going to throw at you. 85% of the time in a divorce situation, the mother gets custody of the kids. Even if she's a convicted felon, even if she has past drug abuse, even if
Yeah.
she's on benefits. Okay,
Yeah.
of that 15% of the time where the man gets the custody, 6 to 7% of the time, that's only because the mother didn't show up in court. So when you back that out, it's like
Yeah.
93-7. At what point are we going to be allowed to file federal sexual discrimination lawsuits against every goddamn county in the United States of America? Because that
Yeah.
is exactly what's happening. I'm getting
Right.
spun. Sorry.
It should be 50. Actually, if I had my way, it would be, oh, well, the one who's filing, they can leave and take whatever they brought with them when they go.
No,
They don't get to take the kids. They don't get to take cash and prizes. If you want to leave, leave.
Yeah, first option, out of fairness, first option be automatic 50-50.
Right.
All right, 50-50. They have down the middle, split joint and physical custody, legal custody. Down the middle.
That's much more attainable than
that's
my
fair.
Yes.
That is the basis of fair, 50-50.
Right.
No child support. Because guess
No
what? Feminism has won, and you always want to be
Unbelievable.
strong and independent. So I'm going to give you the same answer I give a man. handle your shit.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're so strong and independent and we're so equal, then how come we need like special privileges and special, you know what I mean? We'll treat these women want to be equal, then
That's
I
right.
think they should be equal. You
Equal
know,
rights, equal lefts, man.
equal rights, equal lefts. Exactly. But they like it both ways. And I
Those days
hope,
are coming to an end. I'm going to make
I,
sure that those days come to an end.
I think Gen Z might be paying attention to some of this.
Yeah, listen,
And I'm hoping they are.
it's too late for me. Okay, I have no family. I have no kids. I don't even have a home. I just have places where I store shit for my next operation. But as a warrior, it is my job to clear the path so the men behind me, the warriors behind me, will get an even shot at winning or losing. Because I'm already defeated in that arena, and I've accepted it. And it is what it is.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. That's
Yeah.
I love how you talk about it in the terms of like military terms.
Well,
You
I'm a
know,
warrior. I mean,
right, right,
listen. I fought. I served through 3 wars, and in between wars, out of boredom, I fought as a professional fighter. I
right,
am no stranger to struggle, pain, defeat, and victory. But in the United States, in the Western world, as a man, there is almost no victory for you to participate in the civilization that has their boot on your neck.
right. Yeah, that right.
And
So
we're having all of these fights over reparations and slavery, okay? Now check this out.
yeah,
You're married. Your wife steps out on you, gets knocked
yeah,
up by another man, has the child. All she has to do is fool you for 2 years and 1 day, and you're on the hook for child support for that child that's not yours for the rest of your life, or 18 to 21 years. That is slavery in a nutshell. And it happens
wow,
in every state, every county across the United States. I am shocked that there isn't a barricaded gunman across the street from every court in America 365 days a year, because
right,
they are literally promoting slavery and indentured servitude, which is strictly forbidden in our Constitution.
right,
Boom,
right.
Jeremy.
I did not know that about the just have to fool them for 2 years and 1 day, and then you're on the hook as if it's your
Most states
kid.
are like that, yes.
And
Most states are like that, yeah.
and isn't it? There's some crazy statistic that like 1 in 3
I did
kids
that show,
are
yes. That's correct. It's what the American blood banks, and they do paternity blood tests, and they came back with roughly 33% of the results of all contested pregnancies. The supposed father is not the father. So if you have 5 kids, there's a pretty good chance one of those kids isn't yours. So
right.
put that in
That's
your pipe and smoke it, gentlemen.
right. And there's no accountability for these
Nope.
women that are doing this. There's no accountability.
Now,
They
if
try to make the man accountable for the thing he didn't do. He was a
now,
victim.
all right, check this out. If I fooled somebody else and they paid me a bunch of money based on this fooling and I
Yeah.
get caught, that's fraud. After a certain amount, that's a felony, and I go to pound you in the ass prison.
Yeah.
A woman can do that, and a guy could be paying years and years and years thinking these kids are his, and
Yeah.
they're not. And she's like, oh, yeah, ha ha, I fooled you. Nothing happens. There needs to be
Nothing.
criminal, real, go to prison penalties for that. And I'm not talking about 1/3 the time for the same crime. That needs to go away. You do the
Mm-hmm.
crime. I don't care what's hanging between your legs or not. You're doing
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we have those laws too, where same crime and the men get, way more time and way harsher penalties.
Yeah.
Also, all these accusations in family court, there doesn't have to be real evidence. It's just a preponderance. It's like, it's more likely true than not And so
Yeah.
the judge is like, oh, yeah, he probably did it.
No,
Like,
actually, in my case, I got lucky with my judge. This is probably the only good thing that happened is they
yeah,
brought up the whole abuse thing, and he's like, "All right, stop. All right, I need to see police reports. Do we have any logs of police coming, to the
right,
house? Are there any transcripts of these calls? Any
right,
hospital bills?
right,
Nothing? All right, if you want to go forward with this, we're going to shut this whole down. We're going to have a criminal proceedings to find out if he really did it or didn't. And if you're lying to this court, you're really going to pay for that." And he shut it down immediately, luckily. But they still brought it up over and over again for
right.
sympathy, and because you have in the friend of the court system, they've complicated. A lot of times they assign a guardian ad litem or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They,
Mm-hmm.
they make the man pay all the legal bills, medical
Mm-hmm.
bills, what have you. It is so lopsided that as a man in the Western world, for you to participate in that, you are nothing more than an ID 10T. And you can get mad at me, that's fine. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm
It's
here to
true.
save lives.
Yes, yes,
That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to save lives.
right. And they think, oh no, I found one. She's different. No,
Uh-huh.
no, you don't know that. You can't know that. And it's too big of a risk because like, the crazy hot matrix,
Uh-huh.
she can disappear and reappear anywhere on the chart at any time.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, there is
This
no
is
white zone.
this is the impersonation of countless soldiers who stood before me and told me they were either getting married or just got married. Pay attention. She's different. She loves me. She good people. That would never happen to me.
Right.
Yeah,
I met her in church.
yeah. And I did the
No.
same thing. I literally did the same thing when I was
Yeah.
deciding to get married. I
Yeah.
was such an idiot. And all you can do is forgive yourself. And
Yeah.
I'm using my mistakes to educate the men below me who are younger than me, who are
Right.
not better or worse than me. I've just been here longer. So they don't make the same mistakes I made
Right.
and wind up in a slavery.
Right. Exactly. And I, one of the things that's difficult, and I never know what to say to the men who they were the invisible guys, nobody ever, like, they've never had a real relationship. No woman was ever interested in them because their standards, the female standards are crazy, right?
That's fine.
And these men are, lonely and sad and they just wish they'd have a date. And the other men in the chat are like, no, no,
Yeah,
MGTOW is the way. You don't want that. You're dodging bullets. It's a good thing.
yeah.
So
I
it's
use
difficult when they've never had it and you're like, no, it's better because even if you thought you had it, it would have been ripped away from you.
Mhm.
So better to not.
Well, I
Right?
talk to thousands of those guys. I
Yeah.
interact with them a month.
Yeah.
Now, my form of comedy, it's not like stand-up comedy because I wasn't forged in open mic nights where everyone shows up, half cooked on wacky lettuce, and there's a free drink minimum. I
Yeah.
had to do my comedy on the ground in front of soldiers who
Yeah.
were physically, spiritually, morally broken, terrorized with fear, crushed by having death and all kinds of horror in their lives. And I
Yeah.
would get these guys laughing and keep them moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up to 553 lives saved of men who actually credited me from keeping the gun out of their mouth.
Yeah. And it's way more than that. Those are just the ones that told you.
Yeah, and I screwed up the numbers a little bit, so it's radically undercounted. I should have,
Yeah.
and that's my bad. I should have kept a more accurate count, and took it more serious. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really take it serious until I got over like 250, 260.
Right.
And
Right.
I was talking to a Catholic deacon who was a counselor, and he said, in this 11, 12 years he'd been doing it, he had like 24 people he'd saved from suicide. And
Yeah.
then I told him, well, I'm up to like 250-ish. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And I just do comedy, and it seems to help young men, and I talk about the problems that are crushing their souls. And
Yep.
he's
I
like, why
think
why
comedy
is it a
is a
shame?
great Speaking of which, could you just tell, this is the story of, it doesn't have to be in detail, but the story of your commander and what happened there and what you were
Oh,
planning and then what he did and then so that
well,
stopped your plan.
I've had quite a few crappy commanders. Which one we talking about?
The commander that you were put in charge of his funeral, where
Okay,
where
I'll tell you the
he
story.
did what you were planning to do
Yeah, yeah.
a
All
few
right, so
days.
all right, this is a really, this is like Hollywood kind of story, and it sounds unbelievable, but it really did happen.
I believe you.
All right, so I was going through the divorce. I was homeless. I had some guys still in the service cut me a break, and were working to get me back into the full time, back in the regular Army. It was an AGR position under the Army Reserves, which you're still on active duty, but it's more like a 9 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in my office. I was doing S2 work, which is a security manager for a battalion. And a former commander of mine, when I was in the airborne infantry, came in to see me. His name was, I use his first name, last name Waldorf, Major Waldorf.
Mm-hmm.
And I was his platoon sergeant when he was like, I think, a second and then first lieutenant. And he was one of those officers where the battalion commander's like, "Hey, Sergeant Pop, can you take this officer under your wing? He's kind of jacked up. You got to get him, squared away." I'm like, "No problem." And
Yeah.
he was my platoon leader for like a year and a half, 2 years. And we were like joined at the hip.
Yeah.
And I mean, I lived next to this guy in the field. I saw him under pressure. I saw his compassion. His heart was always in the right place. If you're an officer and your heart is in the right place, I will literally move heaven and earth for you. He was that kind of guy. And he just shows up in my office out of the blue, and I'm doing paperwork, and and I'm not going to like tell him, "Hey, I can't talk to you right now." Of
Yeah.
course, I haven't seen the guy in years. And we shot this shit for about 3 hours. We went out to lunch. I fell behind on my work quota, which I don't really give a shit. And he went home, and I didn't think anything of it. And I was in a real bad place at the time. I was like contemplating and putting in plans how I was going to do my final exit because I had literally been beat down to that point by the system and by PTSD and what have you.
Yeah.
And I come in, I think it was either the next day or 2 days later, I come into work and like, "Hey, Major Waldorf went to the Holly National Cemetery and blew his brains out." And I was like, I was shocked. I was crushed. I mean, because I did not see it on him.
Right.
But what he was doing his final goodbyes. Because I found out he'd actually paid visits to other people. And when he was done, he put on his class blues, dress blues, and went to the Holly National Cemetery and shot himself. And oddly enough, I was planning to do the exact same thing within days of this happening. He only picked a more scenic location. That's it. All right. So this
Right.
guy literally took the bullet that was meant for me.
Mm.
How do you repay that? I mean, that debt of karma is huge.
Well,
It's
you're doing
absolutely,
it with what you're doing,
and
saving people.
and then the irony is, I got tagged to be the NCOIC of his funeral. I had to basically train the flag folders, train the rifle team, going through all of the drill details, the honor guard, the escorting, everything. It was a top notch, all hands on deck funeral, and there were
Yeah.
so many people in the church that the fire marshal just said, "Screw it. We're not, there was standing room only." In fact, there's
Yeah.
so many people. There was a mob of people outside the door and hundreds of people.
He would have never realized so many people
Yeah. And
loved him like that.
hundreds of people came up just to put their hands on his casket.
Yeah.
Crushing. It's crushing. I hate talking about it, but it's true.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just,
No, it's
it's such
okay.
an
It's okay.
important story.
It is
It's
what
such
it
an
is.
important story
It
because
is.
of your whole mission
No,
and all the lives you've saved because of that.
yeah, I'm literally in a knife fight with one of the primal forces in the universe, which is destruction, and we know it as death.
Right.
It's like a one-man
Absolutely.
fight. I cannot get out into the mainstream. I have been shadow banned by YouTube to the
Yep.
point of absurdity.
Yep.
Uh, I can't buy advertising in military times, Army times, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard times, Stars and Stripes, because I'm too politically incorrect, and they would
Right.
rather have our servicemen kill themselves than listen to my content. Because guess what?
Right.
I'm screwing with death. And when the stakes are that high, someone's tone should not matter how that battle or war is conducted because the stakes are that high.
Yes. Yes. And they don't want the truth. They
No,
don't want the truth out. And you do a really good job of cutting right to the truth. You know, you do a good job of educating people and letting them know what the reality is out there. And that's a huge reason I'm excited to have you on, because I even have a few women who follow my channel, and women don't know. They really don't. A lot of them have no idea how bad it is for men. And if you can get them little ones at a time, you know, and talk to them, you can get, I'm not saying that makes them marriageable at all. I'm just saying that we need allies on this side. We need the truth to get out, because the truth is like light, you know, and like you said, you're fighting death, you're fighting evil. And isn't it funny that the powers that be don't want you to do that?
I
Kind
wonder
of
why that
reveals
is.
who they are, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they
Kind of
sold out.
everything about them. Oh yeah. I mean, they love feminism and all of this because, in my, not to take it a different direction, but they love that because at the end of the day, they love giant government and communism and everything. And men like you are what's in the way of that. So
I'm
divorce,
cool with that. And listen, there's no happy ending for heroes. So I knew
that's,
this. I knew
ooh,
this
that,
when I decided to step forward and take on this fight, that it was going to be an
right,
uphill battle. I was going to suffer my ass off. There would be no reward in the end because, there's no money and hope, and
right.
it is what it is. But somebody's got to do it because
Yes,
this is wrecking whole civilizations. It's destroying 50% of every country out there that participates in this womanism baloney.
absolutely. Absolutely. The birth rates in and of itself, because motherhood is oppression and all the rest of it. I'm like, and guess what? These women are not happy with these new, thinking that motherhood isn't what
Yeah,
will fulfill them, that career will fulfill them. They're miserable. They're
yes,
absolutely miserable. The only ones that think they're happy are the ones that are still like in college or whatever, and they don't actually know that it's not going to fulfill them, that they will end up being middle-aged and childless and absolutely empty. And they
so
don't realize that because they're completely indoctrinated.
the words you are using, I phrase it as this: boxed wine in Catland, 40 to 80 is a long effing time.
Sure is. It sure is. It sure is. And they're like, I'm not happy. Well, guess what? You're going to be less happy, ding dong. The thing is about women is we are bad at knowing what's good for us. We're very bad at knowing what's good for us. Um, Especially because we're so full of feelings and emotions. And it's like sometimes those emotions just need to shut up. Many times they just need to shut up. But when we are told, like, we don't have to listen to a man and la 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 la, that's actually bad, because men are good at saying, honey, shut up.
Yeah.
No, right? But you can't, right? Because
Because
that's abuse. And it's
there's
not, we need it.
The Duluth wheel of abuse. Everything a man does is now spousal abuse. You take away her
Right.
credit card because she's getting stupid. It's abuse.
Financial abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so stupid.
Ah,
I just can't believe we painted ourselves into this goddamn corner. Sorry for
right.
swearing. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. YouTube is gonna hate it anyway, and I don't care. Because I didn't get into this to like be a giant YouTuber or whatever. I'm shy and I don't like to get in front of people and whatever, but it just apparently is not my choice. So this is what I'm doing. Um, I'm not trying to like abruptly change subjects at all, but
That's fine.
the men they have this, when they get the realization of what these women are,
Uh-huh.
and then therefore what they're not going to have. They're not going to have a family. They're not going to have children, etc. And they've been maybe burned in relationships and they have the red pill rage. I
Ah,
feel like there's this like tunnel almost where MGTOW and peace is over here, but you've got to get through this like tunnel of red pill rage. How do
uh-huh.
you get unstuck? Like, I know that's a giant question, but for the
I
men that
was,
are stuck in that red pill rage, how do we get to the peace and like investing in yourself and
it's
working
called,
on excellence?
it's called acceptance.
Okay.
I went
Like the
through the
end of
red
the
pill
grief.
rage myself. I believed the red, white, and blue apple pie, wife, home, white picket fence, 2 kids, a dog, and half a cat dream. I was totally that guy.
Yeah.
And my mind was filled with all of these grandiose things that I thought women wanted. None of that happened. None of it was true. Now, don't get me wrong. I got the 2 kids, the house, and the wife, and I had it for approximately 6 years. And then it was ripped away. I was turned into a slave, and I paid child support for like 14 years.
Mm,
And I went through all of those. The journey was quite extensive and brutal.
mm,
And yeah, I was mad, for about 3 or 4 years, but basically from like 2008 to like 2015 ish.
mm-hmm.
And one of my therapies is I just picked up the mantle and decided to bust out the tricks, educate men on what's going on, the truth that's awaiting them when they hit 18 and beyond,
Yeah.
and maybe I can get ahead of the red pill rage so they don't ever have to go through it. I get them to accept the world as it is when they turn 18,
Right.
because it's a rough ride
Right.
when the curtain drops and you realize everything you've been told was a lie. It was a carrot on the end of a piece of string to make you walk forward. There was never going to be a reward other than
Right.
subjugation, slavery, misery, and pain.
Right. Right. Do you think that the younger generation, that Gen Z, is paying attention
I
to
hope so.
what's been going on? I
I
know
really,
that they're not dating. They're not dating like generations before them
why,
were.
okay.
Pardon?
Why would they? The women of today are
Right.
not, they don't even hold a candle to the value of the women like my grandmother had.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that even in high school, just from what I've read, because obviously you have to scour to find these things, but it sounds like, young men are looking at these chicks and they're like, they're stuck on themselves. They just are looking at their phones all the time. They're shallow.
Yes.
Uh, they hate us. So they're already, piecing out. And I think that's good because it saves them from getting into some contract that, benefits her if she breaks it.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah.
and we don't want that. It's like until drastic changes happen.
Yeah.
And
And
I don't know that any laws are getting changed in favor of men. I hear, here and there, like, oh, Florida went to 50-50 custody. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was just in the, something that
this,
somebody proposed, but
I'm going to bring the entire system down, educating the young men coming up in this world. And they need to truly ask this question of everything they do once they turn 18. And it's going to sound a little selfish, but you need to do that in today's day and age. You need to ask yourself, what is in it for me?
yes.
If they
Yes.
can't answer that question, walk on.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. They're already being sort of groomed through school and
Oh, no, they
everything
are.
to,
They are.
yeah,
Like my two daughters, I went to the high school quite a few times. All kinds of signage. You can do anything. Women power. Yay. Rah, rah, rah. You look at the yearbook, 80 to 85% of all the student leadership is all women. I
yeah,
mean, get the hell out of here. And you're seeing the numbers in college. Men are like, screw it. Why should I go to college?
right.
So
It's
they force you to take two thirds of your, your 4-year degree is bullshit classes in
yeah,
indoctrination. And you're going to be, $30 to $60,000 in debt at a lower level college, and you're
yeah,
paying for your own indoctrination. You're not going to get the job at the end of the rainbow that's going to pay off all that debt.
no,
There's
no,
nothing in it for men. Do not participate if they can't answer the question, what is in it for me?
right. I think that's an excellent thing to teach young men and even older men who are sort of having to relearn how to
I,
approach life.
Now, listen, through my entire military career, 33 years, 31 of those years, I was in some form of leadership position. And I can't tell you how many times I would like go down to the pack and get the list of the people who are getting, thrown out of the army or thrown out of the unit, go through
Mm-hmm.
their shit, talk to them, find out what the hell's going on. And I would rehabilitate a lot of these guys
Yeah,
because, they were broken by the system or what have you. And I'm doing the same thing now. I am
yeah,
like literally at the bottom of the pyramid, catching the broken dudes who are like falling down,
yeah,
reworking them, retooling them, maybe changing their tools around so they can get back out into the fight and succeed. And I'm doing it with logic, reason, and comedy.
comedy. Yeah, the comedy is fantastic. It's fantastic. Uh, I'm gonna hopefully attach some links to this video that people can check out and see some of your work.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm going to give an open invitation. I will be on whatever podcasts that are out there. If I can,
yes,
I'm more than happy to do these interviews with whomever. If
yes,
I get a chance to save more people, that then that's what I will do. My only joy left is
yeah,
putting more numbers on the counter I have downstairs. That's the
yeah.
only thing. After I came back from Iraq and I got crushed like that, I listen. I died years ago. I'm just waiting for the funeral. Okay, that's my only joy left in life is saving lives, and that's
You
what I'm doing.
know, I can't at all. I don't want to take away from all of that you said, but the little tiny way that I can relate is I feel that way with the multiple sclerosis
Yep.
because it stole a lot of what like my life should be or could have been or whatever. And I do feel like that too. Like, well, I died a long time ago, kind of.
Yeah.
So now I'm just doing whatever I feel is my purpose. It's a
Yeah.
mission until I'm called home. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that I have a mission, you know. But
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah.
decision. It's a necessity. It's a compulsion.
But that's
Um,
one of the main reasons why a lot of men are killing themselves.
yes,
They get
yes.
divorced. They lose their purpose.
They
Or
lose their purpose. That's right.
and they lose their purpose.
Right.
And
And you think that it wouldn't matter if they weren't here. And
correct.
they're
And these
wrong.
guys are literally stuck in the darkness without any light at the end of the tunnel. And
Yes.
I'm literally helping these guys light their own fire of hope using laughter and comedy so they can
Right.
navigate their own dumb asses out of there. Nobody's coming to your rescue.
Right. Right.
All I can do is
Yep.
give you the tools to rescue yourself.
Yep. Yep. And there is peace on the other side. There is fulfillment. Those men that I talk to that have invested in themselves and make sure that they do the things that are important to them. Um,
Yeah.
it's very inspiring to me and it gives me some optimism. How do you think like, how does the future look as far as how the laws are going, how feminism is going? Do we need a complete,
Oh,
like a
it's
grid down situation? Do we need
they
a,
don't
you
if
know,
they don't course correct radically, this whole thing is coming down. I mean, now Daily Wire, all of those guys literally sit there and nag and complain to the men out there because they're not getting married or starting families. They are so out of touch. It
they
is
are.
unbelievable. And I dare say this. I literally think they've sold out to the forces of darkness so they can make the money. And that is shameful. I had hope in the beginning when it kicked off. Maybe they can turn it around. I don't know. But from what I've seen, they're falling back on the same stuff that has been used to manipulate men throughout the eons
Yes.
of time. Blame,
Yes. Trying
shame,
to
and
guilt
guilt.
them into it. Yes. Trying to guilt them into it like it's their duty. Just be a man, man up. It's like, and Michael Knowles, he was having a debate one time with Pearl, and he was kind of giving the religious
Yeah,
thing.
they
And he
brought
said,
the
well,
religion.
in the Bible, it has to be public. I'm like, that doesn't mean that government has to be involved. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
What
and
are you talking
listen,
about?
there's a reason why the congregations across this country are devoid of men. It's
Yes.
because the minute a man walks in there, all of these pastors, priests, deacons, whatever you want to call them, and I would
Mm-hmm.
even say this falls into the Jewish religion and Islam. They want to
Mm-hmm.
pawn off their swamp donkeys on these men who walk in there.
They do. You're right.
Listen, she shows up and she's all worn out. She's been ran through. She's got a couple kids, maybe from a couple different dudes, and they want you to sign up to take that swamp donkey and all that baggage and liability on yourself.
Right.
Again, what is in it for me?
Exactly. Exactly. It's not your responsibility. Like,
No.
Jesus may have saved her and wiped her clean. That doesn't mean you have to marry her or date her or
Let's
talk
be
to her.
honest. If Jesus can't save these women, what hope is there for you?
That's a good point.
It is.
Yeah, and
Listen,
church is the place. I have said it's a place for hoes in hiding. That's what they're there for. They're there to snag some, simpy, clueless Christian guy
yeah,
and, sort of guilt him into getting down the aisle and signing that contract.
yep,
And I feel like those are the only people who are actually getting married anymore.
yeah. See, when I was, shopping for a wife,
Yeah.
I made the mistake. I went to the whore tree and shook it and expected a wife to fall out. But now it's getting so egregious. You can go to the wife tree and shake it, and 70% of what falls out of there are whores because the disease it's spreading.
Yes.
I'm just
It's
saying.
everywhere. I know. That's funny.
Well, I do comedy. That's what I do.
Oh, shake the wife tree and a whore fell out. Shake the whore tree. Shake. Yeah. They're all horse. I mean, you give women freedom and what do they do with it?
They
They all
walk.
became whores.
Yeah, they walk across the stage to get their high school diploma with 1,000 cock stare on their face.
Right.
They're like,
Already.
"Hey, get the hell out of here!"
they're already used up. It's like,
There's
it's
studies
just,
out there. The minute you go over 5 partners, your chances of staying in a long-term committed relationship drop down into the 20%.
yep, that's right. And that's another thing that you don't read,
No?
mainstream. Man, it's so poisoned out there. They really push the propaganda, and women are so much more susceptible to it, or so much more malleable because of emotions and everything. And,
Yeah.
goodness gracious.
Yeah. And
But,
listen, the maximum range of an excuse, at least for a man, is the length of an erect penis. And for a woman, it's everything outside the breadth of her breasts. So basically, everything's a man's fault. And for a woman, everything else other than her is everyone else's fault.
everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
I have this, my guilty pleasure is watching cop cam videos
There's nothing wrong with
where
that.
the females are my favorite ones are when the females are, doing wrong things and they are held accountable, put in and
Yeah.
they're always like in shock and that's my I don't know. It helps it soothes something in me to watch that. But I feel like, it's a total uphill battle to change the system or anything. We would need, like you said, a complete,
Listen, and
something
I'm not
happen.
even telling these guys to fight the battle. I'm just telling them don't show up to fight.
Right.
Literally
One
just
at a
take your
time.
toys, go home, get on with
Yeah.
your life,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yep.
I mean, one of
Yeah.
the main reasons a man will work beyond 40 hours is to provide for his children and his family.
That's right.
That's it. That was the driving goal back in the day for men to go beyond 40. My advice, work your 40 hours, quiet quit, do the bare minimum so you can keep a roof over your head, the lights on, food in the box that stays cold, and
Yeah.
just live a content life.
Men don't need much. They don't
No.
need the big opulent houses and brand new fancy cars and that's all female. That's all what women want. That all
Correct.
that showing off and keeping up with the Joneses and stuff. Men don't need all that. And
No,
so if
I
they
literally
if
went to
they earn
Salvation.
less,
I literally
right?
went to Salvation Army because I had to
Mhm.
start over. I
Mhm.
bought a futon with a chalk outline of a dead body on it, and I still
Oh,
have it in here today.
oh my.
Yeah, there was no leakage or anything, and we negotiated on the price. And that was kind of funny because I was dating this one girl at the time, and I'm there in Salvation Army. I'm like, "Hey, how much for the futon?" This is $85. He goes, and I go, "There's a chalk outline of a dead man on the mattress. Can we do a deal here?" He's like, "Yeah, $30." I'm like, "Okay." And she's like,
God, ah!
and I'm like, don't worry about it.
It's funny. There was no leakage then, I
It's just
guess
a
it's
chalk
good.
outline. What?
It's chalk. It's just a little chalk.
People
Here's a
died,
little
man. What do you
chalk.
want?
What are you, a snob?
No, that really did happen, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, simplicity is beautiful because you don't have this huge mortgage over your head and this giant car payment and everything just weighing you down.
I
And
mean,
and men only
look at
do
my
that,
office.
right?
My office has got some shelving where I keep stuff. I
Yeah.
have swords and weapons on the walls because I had a problem with Ambien, and that belt behind me is a kickboxing belt I won years ago,
Oh.
and I don't care what it looks like. I call it my lair. I don't call it my home. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a home. Again, this is just a place where I store shit till my next operation. I got two or three of them around the country, and it's just the way I roll.
Yeah.
That's the way I roll.
I love it. I love it. I think it's until your next operation.
Correct.
I just love how you approach it, approaching it as a warrior,
You got to take the emotion out of it.
right?
Now, as a guy who served through wars, whenever you go to war and you step into the eye of oblivion, you can take absolutely nothing with you, not even the love of God, because it will cause you to hesitate at the moment of truth, and you will forever be trapped in that microsecond of oblivion. The trick is, if you are blessed or cursed to return, you bring part of that oblivion with you. And that's what I refer to as soul cancer. And it kills a lot of people down the road. And I use comedy, logic, reason to try to stifle that or help people deal with and basically box up that oblivion within their soul to keep it from spreading to the rest of their existence and what have you.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
tough ass fight. And I wrote a whole book about it called The Warrior's Way and the Soldier's Soul.
Right. I know that you've written several books.
Yeah,
You've
well, that
done
book,
so much.
the Warrior's Way book, I was I was just writing my first novel, and I was like a third of the way through it or halfway, And it was like the universe is like, oh, so now you can write. And this curtain came down. And I literally could not continue with the novel. And I would wake up in the middle of the night with these like one sentence, like uh, um, nuggets of wisdom, like love is a down payment on future pain. And I'm like, oh shit. So I was compelled by the universe to write that god dang book. I put it out in 2012. I updated it and took care of some of the punctuation so I could
Mm-hmm.
get it out there. And the funny part is the original manuscript was like 360 pages. And I'm like looking at it going, what am I writing this for? I wrote this for academia. This is not going to help anyone. I need to dumb this down and shorten it up and make it simple so the grunts on the ground who are dealing with this crap will
Mm-hmm.
understand it. And
Right.
that's how it went down.
I think your background and your delivery it just makes you the perfect person to say these things and reach these men because they listen to you. They respect you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, I can't
And
tell how many
that's
times
what we
I've been
need.
arguing with certain women and they're like, well, you're not a real man. And I'm like, woman, I jumped into combat.
What the
That's about
hell?
as masculine as it gets.
Yeah, what the hell? You're not a real man. What's
Like,
a real man then?
I stepped out of an aircraft at 435 feet at 130 some odd knots with a tracer filled night. One of the engines was, belching fire and I had to carry another dude out. I was almost killed on the ground. We had
Yeah,
a short negotiation who got to stay and who had to go, and I'm still here. That's about
right.
as manly as it gets. Just saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, they just love to emasculate. They think that if they
Don't fall
can,
for that.
no,
Men,
no, men need to be on the lookout for it and never fall for it because it is such a common tactic that women use to try to emasculate, whether they're your wife or they're just like a person in Walmart. You know,
no, it's a
women love to
manipulation
do it.
tactic.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, listen, is there anything else that I didn't ask that I should
No.
have that
Well,
you want to share?
well, first of
Um,
all, I thought you did a great job.
Thank you.
You have notes. You're well prepared. We had a couple delays, but that's not a big deal. Uh, like I said, I'm willing to work with anyone as long as I can get in front of more people to save more lives. That's the way
Absolutely.
it is.
And
And
what's your redonkulous? What's your website? I'll put
it's
the YouTube link, but go ahead and shout
it's
it out right now.
it's redonkulous.com, and I have dyslexia, so I spell it kind of weird. It's redonkullas.com.
Hmm.
I've been doing this since 2009. There's like 1,500 comedy videos on YouTube. In fact, I have videos across every video platform on the planet. So it is what it is. I'm trying to put together a 30-minute comedy special that I will release to the manosphere, and then it'll be an open release, meaning if you want that special on your own channel, you just once it's made, you email me. We'll give you a form. It's basically an open release. You can put it on your channel. You can even monetize it. I don't really care. I'm
Wow.
just trying to save lives.
Right. Well, that would
That's
be
it.
great. That'd be great. A 30-minute comedy special. I
Yeah,
would love it.
it's not going to be like stand up kind of thing. I'm
No,
not trained. It's going to be like a comedy lecture.
I know your type. I enjoy your type of comedy. It's
Yeah.
subtle. It's dark. It's I like it a
Oh, it was
lot.
forged in
Even
the
though even
climate.
though people might be surprised because I'm sort of a clutch my pearls type of person, but uh, I enjoy it, and I think it's so necessary. I don't know. I also use humor to get through difficult times. Like you can laugh or you can cry. So which one would you rather do? I'd rather laugh. So
Yeah,
let's fight it that way. Much
absolutely
healthier,
correct.
I think.
Well said. Well said.
Well, it was wonderful talking to you, sir.
Thank
Wonderful
you so
talking
much.
to you. And we will stay in touch.
Okay.
And I will end the recording right here, and then we'll say our proper goodbyes on the other end. So thanks everybody for joining us.